Happy Halloween! Yeah, I'm one of those. Hola! Welcome to Horror Time on this channel. Today I'll finally be talking about a manga that I promised to make a video on ages ago. It is finally time for Gyakusatsu Happy End, or Massacre Happy End. And it is a manga by Mukoura Hirokazu and Miyatsuki Arata. It ran from 2017 to 2019 and it consists of 8 volumes, so it's finished. Now again, I'm not sure if this is published anywhere in English. It's one of those manga that I bought on a whim because I like the cover. Before we get into it, quick trigger warning for everything, I guess. A lot of crazy stuff happens in this manga, so there's a warning. So let's talk about the plot. The story starts with a teenage boy who just killed someone. Yeah, they're not playing in this manga. The boy says how glad he is that he was able to kill and move forward again. So this immediately sets the tone for the story. This fine young man is called Kusakabe Makoto. We'll just call him Mako here. He's a high schooler who also has a part-time job as a paper boy, I guess you'd call it. By all accounts, Mako seems like a hardworking, nice kid, but he actually has a lot going on. For example, there's a guy who keeps harassing him for money and tells him that he can introduce him to women, blah blah blah. But Mako wants nothing to do with that and says that he thinks only of his little sister Shiori. No, not in a weird way though. We're also introduced to his childhood friend Yayoi, not to be confused with Yaoi. She's always worried about Mako, but he likes to keep things to himself and doesn't want to drag her into his family affairs. Mako believes that all the bad stuff that happens is some sort of test by God and that he can resolve everything by himself. But what is all this bad stuff? For one, his sister Shiori is hospitalized and needs a transplant really bad, but the family doesn't have money. You know, the classic tale of the soul of man under capitalism. Their mother left and the father became a good-for-nothing, mean drunk who uses the money for Shiori's surgery for food or whatever, like expensive food, because, you know, Shiori is gonna die anyways. So one night, Mako has a huge fight with his father and storms off. He is at his breaking point when he reaches a temple where he proceeds to scream at God. One thing he says there is that he can only see despair in the future, so he wishes that tomorrow would never come to him and Shiori. He then gets a call from the hospital and they tell him that they found a donor and Shiori can have surgery next month. Mako is obviously very happy about this news and is determined to work for the money they need for the surgery. Little does he know that his wish from earlier was actually granted. When he wakes up the next day, it's actually the same day again. So there's a bit of a Groundhog Day situation going on. So this happens a few times and all the while Shiori's condition is getting worse and worse. One day the annoying guy who always wants money from Mako steals some of it. And Mako just snaps and kills the guy. This is when he finds out how to break out of the time loop. Each new day demands a new sacrifice so time can go on. So now he has to kill someone every day for a month until Shiori can get her surgery. As you can imagine, it's not easy to kill someone and get away with it, and the police are soon suspicious of Mako. I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I'll try to keep it short and spoiler-free. First of all, having to kill someone every day just so time can move on is a really interesting premise, right? Like, wow, what the fuck would you do? So I was wondering how Mako would handle being a murderer, you know? Don't forget that he's supposed to be this good kid who never complains and does everything for everybody. But then he kills this guy, you know? Even though he didn't plan it, he did it. Hitting someone on the head with a rock doesn't make that much of a mess. And it doesn't necessarily kill somebody immediately. He must have put some effort into it. So when he realizes what he has to do, his reaction is weird. Of course, he justifies his first killing by saying that the guy was trash anyways, so who cares, right? Kind of like Kira or Dexter. He proceeds to kill people who he thinks deserve it anyways. But even so, most sane people would be reluctant to kill somebody even though they don't like them, or worse. No matter what is at stake, killing people is not a joke. Killing joke. Anyways, in my eyes, he accepted his fate way too quickly and just readily took on the role of the victim. We can also see later how he stops caring if someone's bad as long as it benefits him. He's a really unstable character throughout the story. The way he acts towards Yayoi makes no sense. And also how he always says that he doesn't feel anything and now he's just this robot. But then he cries all the time. Bitch, are you an Aquarius too? It seems that he has severe issues that started way before his murder spree arc. The more I read about him, the more it felt as if everything was just a punishment for his weakness. All of his life, he just took the abuse from everyone around him until he snapped. But obviously, it's too late if you're already at a point where you have to kill somebody to get through life, you know, kind of like a school shooter. Dealing with pain by inflicting pain on others is not exactly something that I'd associate with strength, if you know what I'm saying. It shows weakness of character, in my opinion. Like, I can't be judging him for being weak, but he's still weak, you know? Anyways, Mako is a pretty weak dude in my opinion. He never talks about anything and fucks over everyone in his life. And that is not strong, it is stupid and weak. And by the way, I also don't get why all the girls are so into him. Maybe because he's pretty and sad and women always want to fix a bit. I don't know. I don't think that Mako turned into this weak ass person just because of the loop thing. I think he's always been this way and this just brought it out. I also think that if he knows his sister at all, he knows what she would think if she knew what he was doing. And I bet that she would have rather died than see all the things that Mako did. Another, even better solution would have been to find out how to destroy the whole loop thing, curse, or whatever you want to call it, without having to kill someone in the first place. But since he was pressed for time, Mako didn't give any thought to alternatives, which I get kind of. If you already know the story and how it ends, you might be a little bit confused, like me, as to why everything even had to happen the way it did. Because to me, like, thinking back, it kind of does make sense. So many unrealistic things happen in this manga, and I'm not talking about the time loop. I'm talking about so many coincidences and just luck. It takes a lot of the suspense out of the story, I think. But speaking of the time loop, it means that Mako is the only one who can control if time moves on or not. Which means that other people's actions don't have any consequences whatsoever. So technically other people can just go and kill someone, but it doesn't matter as long as Mako doesn't kill someone. I guess this is just another one of those manga where you shouldn't think too rationally about anything and just focus on the psychological aspects, I guess. And that's fine, you know, I don't need to understand exactly what's going on and why, but I'm saying that it would be better if we did understand. The other characters aren't really that interesting, but I'll mention the detective here briefly. He's fine, you know, but a little too... You don't have to understand how I did it, but I did it, and trust me, I'm a genius, so, you know, type of guy. Which is... It's also a little predictable sometimes. Like if I compare it to Shiai Naruboke Satsuyo Komete, for example, where you never know what's gonna go down next. So yeah, I really have a lot of not so positive things to say, but I also want to mention good stuff here, which is the art. I love it. The characters look really good, the atmosphere is dark, and overall the immersion in the story is great. It's also really graphic, like they don't hint at stuff, they show everything. The realistic setting of the story makes everything even more unsettling, I think. The intensity of the art is easily the best part of this manga for me, and also what left the strongest impression. So for that alone, you should check it out at least. Overall, this manga can definitely be enjoyed for what it is. But personally, I had to stop questioning things so much to keep enjoying it. It's definitely not the worst manga I've read. It's far from it. I think it's a decent manga. It has a very interesting premise. It has amazing art. Depending on how much else you've read in that regard, it can be a little bit predictable, but if you usually don't read stuff like that, then check it out and I'm sure you will find a lot of enjoyment in it. But that is so not all I wanted to talk about. There is so much more to talk about, but we can discuss in the comments if you want. But this is where I'll end it for this week. Next week is gonna be another like Halloween-y video, I guess. So if you want, you can also recommend your favorite thriller, mystery, slasher, gory, horror, psychological, whatever story, and I will check it out. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope everybody has a great day and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.